Here we are again. Hello, everyone. Welcome. Welcome to Satsang. And welcome to your time of your personal time of, uh, of inner inquiry. That's what Satsang is all about. It's a very individual thing. It's very much for you. I'm here only to facilitate. So I gave this one a title, Your Sacred Inner Space. It's just something I've been thinking about perhaps because my place is pretty empty now. I've sold almost everything I have as I plan to move to the other side of the world. And just pondering that sense of a sacred inner space. Today, in these days, there isn't much room for that. We don't have a world that encourages it or provides a lot of opportunity for it. It's all externally focused, everything just trying to grab your attention as if it was actually important. As when in fact, that which is most important is you. Because without you, what else does any of this matter, right? All the accomplishments, all the successes, all the things that you can acquire, all the experiences you have, however good, however valid, they're all an extra added thing for you. What about the direct experience of yourself? That's what satsang is all about. So I wanted to just start by taking a moment to go into that inner space. You're all here for satsang. There's nothing else going to go on. So I'm going to invite you to if you got anything else going on, stop it, shut the door. If you've got some, notifications happening, just ignore them. If you got a bunch of different windows and you're working at the same time, stop and just be present here for a second. Okay? You don't have to stay here for the whole 2 hours. When this little meditation is done, then you can go back to being distracted if you like. But for just a moment, let's create a sacred space. And the word sacred simply means that it's important, right? It is valuable. It is the most important thing to you. And what could possibly be more important to you than you? Because it's what you start with, it's what you end with. Everything else falls away except you. So close your eyes for a second. Just let your attention settle into your body for a moment. And just let yourself temporarily let go of all of the roles that you play in life. Right now, you're not a husband or a wife. You're not a boyfriend or a girlfriend. You're not a friend. Not a son, a daughter, a mother, a father. You're not an employer or an employee. You're not even a student or a teacher. See if you can just let go of all of the roles that we play, which are all temporary. You go in and out of them at will. No role, no responsibility, no job, no definition of you whatsoever. You're not engaged in anything. Now, you may find that your mind gets a little disoriented, a little shaky, because it doesn't have a point of reference a point of self-reference. But you are definitely still here. You haven't gone anywhere. That which steps into a role and out of a role. We're just going to spend a moment with no role. Most of the time we're in a role, we step out of one and immediately into another. I just want you to enjoy that space in between where there isn't one. There's no responsibility. There's nothing to do. There's nothing to accomplish. No one needs anything from you. You're completely empty. And this is all that is meant by that term, emptiness. Just not assuming a particular identity or role for just a moment. And despite the way the mind may struggle with that a bit, just notice what it feels like. Notice what it's like to simply not be anything at all for a moment, and yet you still are. You can't stop being. Just this simple fact of your own being. The simple awareness of that fact. This is the inner sanctum. And this is the place of Buddhas. Buddha simply means the one without any reference to anything else. So you're not referencing yourself. You're just being yourself. Don't even call this a meditation. It doesn't really have a name. If any questions come to mind, just set them aside temporarily. Don't become a seeker. You'll notice how very quickly we want to take on to some kind of identity, right? Become a seeker, or a student, or even the idea of being spiritual or not spiritual. No role at all. Just you. Pure being. Notice how quiet it can get. There's no noise in you. Even the mind tends to kind of quiet down a bit. And you can even feel in your body how it wants to glom on to something. It wants to. For a moment, you just don't have anything to do. No one to be. You're just here. And just stay aware. Stay conscious. Right? Notice how easily it is to become distracted, how much momentum there is towards wanting to identify with something. And just stay present for just a moment. Good. Now just take a breath. And as we begin to return from from your inner space, okay, see if you can maintain that sense of disidentification, that sense of not needing to play a role. Even here in satsang, you don't need to become a questioner or a thinker or a seeker or a spiritual guy or a non-dual guy. Just be. And take a breath and open your eyes. And welcome once again to Satsang. Very happy to have you all here. Very happy to be here. And so let me go and say hello to people and see if there are any questions that need to be answered. Faith. Hi, Meishik and my spiritual tribe. I love you. Love you too. Well, we should seek that blessed inside, but I cannot yet come to that happiness of living here or there is not the source of my happiness, is that attachment. Yes, I feel lighter, less suffering. I can enjoy small things and feel time to time that sweetness in my chest, but I cannot come to the state of no matter where I live, I will have a joyful life. I need some guidance. I love you. Well, I don't present these things as an absolute, that you're supposed to be wherever you are and you like everything the way it is. Right? We as human beings, we have preferences. There's things we prefer. I want this rather than that. Right? The question is that when you can't get this rather than that, do you suffer? Right? And this is the happiness I'm referring to. It is not the emotional happiness that is quite natural. Right? I have a preference. I've chosen to live in another country. I'm going to move to the other side of the world. Right? I've wanted to do it for a while, and I've decided to do it. Right? Now, unlike you, I have a lot of freedom to do that, so I get it. Right? But it took a while to do. And of course, during COVID, I couldn't do it. I mean, I've been planning on doing this for a while. COVID kind of put a kibosh on all travel for a long time, and the lockdowns and all of that kind of stuff. Plus all of the requirements that are on top of moving now anyway. Right? Now, the question would be, should I not have been able to work that out? Would I be unhappy? Well, let me try to draw a distinction between the word happiness refers to a couple of different things, right? Let's define happiness as being simply our normal experience of life. When we get things we want, we're happy. When we don't get things we want, we're sad, right? There's a natural emotional response to us getting or not getting what we want, right? And that natural response we would call happiness, right? And obviously, I get something new, something exciting, something I've really wanted. There's a happiness there. Now, that's a emotional happiness, and it is always short-lived, right? It is transient. It comes and goes because it is circumstantial, right? Because the circumstances will change. No matter how good it is the new place you find yourself in, it too will come with its challenges and its differences and the like. There's no such thing as a perfect solution. Now, the other form of happiness, I think, is probably better expressed as contentment, and it's an existential state. It does not denounce or discard or in any way diminish the experience of happiness as an emotional reaction, right? It resists nothing, right? It doesn't say, shouldn't be happy, it isn't trying to flatline emotions, right? It is the silent and still background against which emotions can come and go. They can rise and fall, just like silence is required to have music, right? Walk through, a big store or a shopping mall or something. You may kind of hear music somewhere, but you can't really hear it because it's in the middle of a bunch of noise. So it requires this background of silence in order to be experienced. That background of silence is what I call contentment. That is spiritual or existential happiness, right? And again, it does not say you should just be happy no matter where you are, right? Be content wherever you are, because ultimately our contentment, our suffering arises from our resistance to what is happening in this moment. And if you want to be permanently content, if you want to experience that existential contentment, it is simply allowing everything to be as it is in this moment. To simply say yes to life, what it is it's delivering. Now, part of what life is delivering is your preference for more, a preference for different, a preference for more freedom, more experience, the kinds of things that you're seeking for, right? So I'm not suggesting that you have to completely detach yourself and not want anything, right? It is allowing the wanting and the desire to arise without glomming onto it, and with the belief that if I get it, I will be happy. If I don't get it, I will suffer. Right? That belief creates the suffering, not the actual rise and fall of events. They do not do anything except create different kinds of emotional reactions within us. If I have a preference, or to use your word, an attachment to a particular outcome, right? Then what I do is I make anything else less than, and I suffer. Right? And I deny the presence of the contentment that is the natural state of existence. Now, oftentimes what happens, simply because the mind doesn't understand this, and it takes some maturing to grasp this, we think, okay, well, if I'm really content and happy with the way things are right now, they won't change. Now you can see you just put yourself into a double bind, right? Right. I'm not happy. If I get happy, then I won't be happy. Right? Just put all of that aside. The inner state of true contentment inevitably manifests itself in our lives in ways that give us more freedom, more a depth of experience. It first liberates us from our attachment to circumstances, and then changes the circumstances. Right? But as long as there's a desire for the circumstances to change in order to be happy, the cart is before the horse. And there will always be a struggle with the circumstance. There'll always be second guessing. There'll always be a discontent. Right? The ultimate attainment is spiritual contentment. That is what goes along with the understanding of being and consciousness. That's Sat Chit Ananda. Being, consciousness, bliss. You could say being, knowing, and feeling. Right? This is when our feelings align with our sense of self that we know to be the absolute pure being. Identify with that which is beyond all desire. This does not mean desire can't be there. It just means identification is no longer dependent upon desire. The sense of self is beyond that. And you can look really closely at that, the source of my happiness. Who's the my? Who is this I that is so diligently seeking a different set of circumstances, to the point where it feels that it will never truly be happy until it's in those circumstances? Who's that I? Is that I not a particular thought form, belief system that is being witnessed by something that is beyond it? Let your sense of self go to that place of being beyond it, because that is contentment, because that is never touched by circumstance. And yet all circumstance, all feeling, all experience is the creation of that and the manifestation of that. It is the source of all experience. Yeah. So perhaps that covers it for you, Faith. For everyone, really. Because there's nobody who's not in circumstances that they wish were different. I mean, especially right now in the middle of, all this time into it, and we're still into, some places are still under lockdown. All the restaurants in Seattle now require a proof of vaccination before you can go into them. Life has become constricted. Right? This is nobody's doing. Right? This is a call for us to dive even more deeply into ourselves, to find the real place of freedom within us that cannot be touched by circumstance. That will liberate us. That will liberate the world. Thanks, Faith. I hope that helps, my dear. There's Rosario in Madrid. There's Robbie in Romania. There's Sabugo, dear GP. None of my attempts to send you emails were successful. I have gotten them, and I have responded to them, Tony. Yeah, I know who you are now. You're not Sabugo. You're Tony. Actually, Tony might be your wife even. I can't remember. Anyway, I have gotten them. I have replied. So so they are getting through. The emails are getting through. I'll do my best to keep you posted. If you're in the private Facebook group, you can post something there too. You can also send me a message through Facebook. So, hey, Roberto, you're in Granada, Spain today. I love Granada. Oh, when I visited there, oh my goodness, I loved it there. What a beautiful place. Milo, hello everyone. What does guru mean, and why is she important? Well, the word guru literally means, a Sanskrit word, which literally means one who dispels darkness. That's the literal meaning of the word. It's simply anyone, anything, any dispelling of darkness. Now, it also refers to, obviously, the teacher who is one who is dispelling darkness, right? So while we are in unconsciousness, while we are in our darkness, obviously we need that we need that dispelled. We need the light of truth, the light of love, to pierce through that darkness and wake us up. So that's why it's important. That's why the guru is essential. And it's extremely rare for somebody to be able to do that for themselves. Even those who have been able to come to deep spiritual realizations um, on their own um, will usually, almost always, require the ongoing guidance of some teacher as they integrate that, as they adapt to that, as the insight um, deepens and begins to permeate more of the whole nervous system, more of your whole life. Um, that is that becomes essential because, especially in the West, because we don't really have we don't have a context for spiritual awakening. When I had that very first experience 50 years ago, right, there was no context whatsoever. I lived in a community that was just all white Christians, right? I had never heard the word enlightenment, illumination, any of that. It just wasn't in the vocabulary. I'd never heard the term yoga, for crying out loud, right? So now there's adequate access to all sorts of information and terms and things we're now familiar with, consciousness and awakening and these things, which are like part of the common lexicon now. They because it is so common, we have this illusion that somehow we understand what they mean, and we don't. They're being interpreted from a very Western point of view, a very Western context, right? And therefore are not properly understood. So the teacher is absolutely necessary, especially in the beginning, to show you that it is more than just a revelation that is required. The revelation has to take root and move south into the body, into the whole system. And everyone inevitably feels, you have that great, the heavens part, that you have a feeling of oneness. And then it's gone. And you think, what happened? I did something wrong. And then we try to reproduce it. That's the mistake right out the get-go. Right out the gate, a mistake is made that a guru would help you avoid. Right? You didn't lose it. Right? It was an opening. Right? You experienced yourself as you were. Right? And then conditioning reasserted itself again. It was just temporarily set aside, and then it reasserted itself again. Right? So you didn't have something and lose it. You are that, but the vision has yet again been clouded, right? The aperture closed, right? It opened up, you saw yourself, the aperture then closed. It's a very different way of looking at it than, I had a great experience, how do I get the experience back? And this is what happens for most people. Having a real teacher will keep you from experiencing that. You will avoid that incredibly debilitating mistake. And in the hands of a real teacher, it will allow you to prepare all of you to receive the kind of insights and allow them to integrate quickly. It requires a preparation. Right? You don't watch a few videos on YouTube and this happens. Right? You can and have experiences, but there'll be no context for understanding them, and they will get lost. Matter of fact, you may be worse off than you were before. Traditionally, this kind of thing that is being taught now, 1 million people on YouTube, it used to be you only did that when you entered into an ashram or a monastery, and it was a lifetime commitment. And in some traditions, you were simply an apprentice and a servant to the master for 12 years before you even heard this stuff, before you were allowed to be in satsang. Right? No, was that all just kind of cruel, trying to get free work out of people? No. Everything you were doing, all the tasks that you're doing, were preparing you to be able to receive it, because it isn't something you just You just pick up, read a book, and boom, you're there. Or have an experience at a weekend, or some, powerful motivational speaker. That will not sustain it, right? Especially in the West, we are completely ill-prepared for this. Right? So, so that's why the guru, the one who dispels light, and the one who prepares you to have the light dispelled is so necessary. I know this for a fact because when the first experiences happened to me, I was not prepared. I didn't know what to do with them, and my life got worse. I don't. Much of what was originally just troubling me did fall away, but my capacity, my ability to integrate, to be in life, to function, was completely crippled. I was incapable of it. It took me a long, long time, decades, to prepare. Had I known what I know now, it would have been a very easy thing. I would have taken a completely different approach to it. Right? If there had been gurus available, if I'd even heard the word guru, there were. I didn't know about it. I did. Papaji was still alive. Nisargadatta Maharaj was still alive. I could have. I didn't know. Right. So instead, I blundered through, trying to fit this understanding into a Western context until I saw it wasn't going to work anymore. I could have saved myself a lot of grief, which is, my mission is now to save yours, to prepare the system. That's what the yoga of allowing is about. That's what inner reconciliation is about. These are processes to prepare you, right? So that when the moments come, they're not so extraordinary. They just don't completely take you over, and they don't immediately just fade away. There's a doorway of integration that has opened up that allows these things to really settle in depth. So hopefully that answers your question there, Mila. Hello, Hendrik. Good to see you. There's Tatiana, living in Granada. Can I envy you and envy you? She's talking to Roberto. Hello, Ava. Good to have you here. Annette, my rock star. Can you explain the meaning of the saying, "The world is your mirror, and other people are your mirror"? Thanks a lot. Yes, I can. Let me explain it in a couple different ways. Because when we are identified with the body-mind, when we're still in the sense of identity that is really the person, which is a concept of you and not the reality of you, yet is so believed in that it becomes the sum total of our experience, right? When you are in that, this statement that somebody may make, "The world is a mirror," won't be all that helpful to you. Right? It's true in that we tend to project on others what is our own dominant energy, plus the parts of us that we have disowned. Right? So we project things on other people. We see things in other people that aren't there. We interpret things that other people do from that perspective, right? And so, to the degree that I am aware of who I am, really who I am, to that degree, I am no longer projecting, and I am seeing people as they are. I'm seeing everything as it is. I'm seeing the mystery of life as it actually is. I am seeing the forest and not just the trees. I am seeing the tree and not just the leaves. I'm seeing the leaf and not just the vein, right? Until then, right, there will always be projection. It will always be projections of the mind. Right? The mind is constantly projecting itself out on the world. And so the world then does become a mirror to us. Right? If I am experiencing, well, let's give a good example. Right now, there's an enormous amount of polarity in the world. A lot of people claiming, bad people and these evil people enduring things, and the conspiracy theory and all of that. And other people are touting this is the way it needs to be, and right. Both are interpreting experience from a particular point of view, and the more aggressively and the more vigorously we hold on to a particular position, the more and more things are going to you're going to amplify those things that confirm your bias, and filter out those things that contradict it. So somebody would say, I did research on a subject, which means they kept searching until they found something that agreed with them. That's what most people mean by that. Unless you actually do, have an advanced degree and know how to in some field where you're doing research and really know how to do it. It is really nothing but confirmation bias. So what does that mean? Well, it means is that all I'm doing is projecting upon the world what I believe it to be. Now, the only remedy for that is to question myself, right? Is to question my only beliefs. The fact of the matter is, none of us has the whole picture. None of us does. Right? So assuming I know right from the get-go, say, oh, this is the way it is, you're already skating on thin ice. Right? And this is what everybody does. Oh, this is the way it is, this way it has to be, this way it should be. It's a very fundamentalist point of view. Where the wise position to take is, I don't know. Right? I don't know. I truly don't know. And that's the case. Everything going on in the world now, I do not know. I have no idea, really. Right? So what do I do instead? Try to see things as they are. And that doesn't mean sorting out which opinion is right. No opinion is right. To not project means that you see that what all there is a bunch of shifting, changing belief systems, none of which have any real reference point, none of which are absolutely true, all of which are just in constant flux. And when we feel weak, we grab onto it and want to hold onto it tightly. And when we feel strong, we're willing to let go of them. But none of them are true. So how then does one live a life? Well, for me, it's a very simple thing. There's one absolute value, one value that is not an opinion, that is an absolute truth, and that's love. In any given moment, if I look at any 2 points of view, whatever one is the most loving to me is the closest to the truth, whereas nothing can be the full truth. But what's closest? What's most loving? And most loving simply means the most inclusive. What includes the most? What grants the most freedom, the most opportunity, the most everything to all, completely inclusive, right? Excluding none. Right? That to me, I can say is an absolute. That's not a matter of opinion, because obviously the opposite of that leads to chaos and destruction, dominance, control, squeezing, a horrible life, obviously. Right? Whereas love, real love, completely implemented, wouldn't. It would lead to harmony. And just looking, okay, well, it makes perfect sense. To me, it's an absolute value. Right? So I'm getting a little off the subject, right? So love means I'm not looking for a particular point of view. If I'm not looking for a particular point of view, I am not projecting it on the world, at which point I'm seeing the world as it is. Now, from here, something really beautiful happens. Right? The world remains a mirror, but it's mirroring love. It's mirroring not a projection of the mind, In Buddhism, they refer to it as the great perfect mirror mind. That is, the manifest universe is the manifestation of divine love when it is seen as it actually is. When it isn't, there's a darkness, there's a heaviness. It's a projection of the darkness of our own unconsciousness. And therefore we'll see bad people everywhere. We'll see, we will see our own fears. We will see our own biases. Right? We will see our own, what we have denied ourselves. Right? That which we deny ourselves, we and keep it denied through our beliefs, through our morality, through this is sinful, this isn't. We will then project judgment on others. They shouldn't be doing this. Maybe even seek to restrict them, right? Because they're bad people. Call them evil, call them terrorists, and justify. You can see how insane it is, right? And it's not love. Because if love, especially starting with love for ourselves, which allows us to completely embrace everything we are, everything that means to be human, nothing is off limits, nothing is taboo. We acknowledge everything that we are. That's love. This frees us from that inner darkness, that inner nescience, right? The ignorance of self-rejection. Right? And in so doing, what happens? You liberate love. And now the world mirrors, excuse me, the world mirrors that love. For mind in its truth is Shakti. It is the it is the power of manifestation. The mind and the universe are one. As long as we see the universe as something separate than ourselves, we have disowned the true nature of mind, and we have turned mind into an enemy, a problem. Okay? And then it becomes nothing but a collection of false concepts. And it can't help but be false because the universe is mind. And the universe is your mind. Not you as a person, but you as the self. You are the self. The self. The only self. There is not more than one of us. There is only one conscious existence. And you are that. So just let go of all sense of being a person, of being limited, finite, being the body. You're not. And embrace what you actually are, which is the infinite self. Right? That is the end of projection. Right? Because there's no need to project when I am what I am seeing. There's no projection. If I am the mirror, there's no mirror. It is simply myself. My internal and what appears to be internal turns out to be external. This appears to be not something out there, but my universe in here. Even in and out cease to have any meaning. I know I kind of went off on that, but hopefully that works for you, Annette. Thank you. Karen, namaste. How do you get rid of an energy vampire? Well, oftentimes it's not easy, like if you're married to one. Then there's some work to be done in terms of breaking, in terms of breaking the connections and literally taking responsibility for your life, for who's going to be in it and who isn't. It's a very significant and powerful thing that has to be done. Right? Energy vampires can only operate on you if you let them. They always find something, a weakness in you to be able to grab onto. Now, the energy vampire, they're not conscious. They do it intuitively. They do it instinctively. There's no such thing as conscious evil, but there's an energy suck. First off, get sensitive to feeling it. Feel when somebody is taking more energy than they're giving, maybe even giving none and taking a lot. And then notice how you want to take care of them, want to rescue them, want to do things for you, for them, right? And may even take some pride in, oh, I don't need anything for myself. I'll take care of you. That is the vampire needs a victim, somebody willing to give the neck, right? They can't take it. They have to talk you into it, right? Right. Something in you has to be willing to have that energy drained. So that's the first place you look. Okay? Look back on your own life. How many times have you simply put yourself into a position where you've let that happen? Right? Okay. Well, that now is something you take responsibility for. I'm doing this. I'm inviting the vampire. I'm inviting this energy suck. Right? It could take a variety of forms. Jobs I don't like, people I hang out with I don't really want to be with, things I do I'm just responsible for that I don't really want to do. All of these are energy drains. All of these are energy vampires. And notice, a lot of them are not people. They're circumstances we put ourselves into. Okay? So it requires some introspection, right? The vampire cannot suck the energy if you don't let them. Simple as that. Now, oftentimes, because of it's so habitual, we've gotten so conditioned to be that. Right? We've been conditioned to be the one being drained. And again, you're not responsible for this, right? That is, you have to take responsibility for it, but you're not responsible for the fact that it happened. This is all part of our condition. We learned to do that. And then we often learn that the only way we can get any attention whatsoever is to give so much to somebody who's not going to return much. But there's something inside, well, this is the only way I'm going to get it. That's not true. There's a belief that can be directly addressed. It is my own sense of value here, my own sense of worth. Right? What is it that I want? Right? Can I ask for it? And if you're in a close relationship with somebody, and that has been the foundation of the relationship, all the more reason for you to do it, but they may not like it. Right? Matter of fact, they won't. They will try to get you back into that position, and will keep doing that until it is absolutely clear that you're not going back. And that means they may grow up and begin to adapt themselves to your higher level, or they will disappear from your life. But it is all completely an internal thing. You know, there are people who will teach some techniques for cutting cords and things like that. In my experience, they don't work unless something inside of you has already woken up to your responsibility for it, right? That it has been a reflection of your inability to own your own desires, to actually honor your own energy, honor your desires, honor the things that you want to the degree that you'll actually let yourself have them rather than giving your energy somewhere else. It's a big subject. I hope that gives you a good start with it, Karen. If there is a certain extent that it is just somebody that you do have a sense of value, that you're just getting tired of their energy, there's nothing stopping you from just saying, look, this is too draining. I can't do this for you anymore. Right? If that's a hard thing to do, well, good. It means you're human. You have a heart. You don't want to do that to somebody. But if you don't do it, well, then you're not taking responsibility for yourself. And for some, it's just, people that are not going to get it. You just cut them out of your life. You just cut them out. Most of the time, they'll just disappear anyway because they're not getting what they want. Right? Just the very fact that they can't get you whenever they want you is enough for them to disappear. You may never have to explain yourself. Right? But you might. But it comes back to you going, okay, I am responsible for my life. I'm not responsible for the situation that I got myself into. That was all happened to unconsciousness. But now I'm conscious. I am responsible. Right? I am responsible to create an environment that is conducive to my growth. And that means not giving my energy away in any form. Time, money, love, body, any form. Thanks, Karen. Hello, Penny. There's Martin. What does the winter season mean to us? I'm tired all the time and not motivated at all. I could stay in bed all day long. Should we slow down everything and go inward? It's interesting. Yeah. Look, we're sitting here right now. I'm sitting here with 1,500 watts of LED lights around me, right? This is not what the body evolved for, right? Normally, what was winter, right? The body was simply shutting itself down. Why? Because it didn't have any food. Food was scarce, right? So energy dropped down because we don't want to be using a lot of energy, right? Simple as that, right? Every animal experiences this, right? So yes. However, we live in a time now, artificial lighting, stuff goes 24/7. We don't, they don't say at work, oh, it's wintertime, 3 months off. Everybody go hibernate. They don't do that. You're supposed to show up 9 to 5, just like normal, right? Nothing has changed. To the degree that you can, acknowledge the fact that there are cycles in life, right? And that certain times of the year, energy is going to drop off. It simply does. I feel it. I feel it. I want to just kind of snuggle under a blanket, right, with some, with some hot cider and watch the snow come down. That's enough of an activity for me. So don't see it as I want to stay in bed all day, because that's part of it too. Some animals literally do, right? They go to sleep for weeks at a time, right? Because that way the body shuts down to almost nothing. It uses very little energy. This is how we've adapted to the fact that the cycle of life means food is not available. That's why we're also very attached to fruit. We're very attracted to the colors of fruit. And why sugar makes us want to eat more. Because for the most part, for the history of the body, sugar didn't exist except in the period right before winter. Right? And so we adapted to consume all the sugar, fruit that we possibly could, because guess what? It was all going to be gone very shortly, and we were going to actually go down to nothing. And all of that was going to be turned into fat, which would last us through the winter. And now that sugar is available year round, which is why we're obese, right? Because the body doesn't need that. In springtime, it got rid of all that fat, right? Through all the extra activity and the fact that there was nothing like that available. It was always just like whatever game you could catch, right? Which was not a lot, and greens and roots and nuts and stuff, right? None of which had any sugar in it. So the whole story of sugar is a thing in and of itself. So don't see it as I'm not motivated. Just accept the natural cycles without putting a pejorative on it. No judgment on it. I could stay in bed all day. That's a judgment. No, you're not, right? You just the energy is low because it's the time of the day. It happens every night too. That's why you go to sleep at night. Do you complain about the fact that I'm really tired? I haven't slept all day. I got to go to sleep. Right? No, it's because it's what we do. Right? Now, some people have things like, daylight lights, lights for, because they're deeply affected by the fact that the days get shorter. And so they have these special lights that will kind of artificially prolong the day. Perhaps those things kind of, I just find that when I totally accept that this is what it is, that there's no overhead on it anymore. I don't suffer, and I have enough energy to do what I need to do. Right? And fortunately, most of us aren't. We're not out, chasing down things or out in the middle of, freezing cold, trying to find what little food there might be. We're doing things with our minds that don't require a lot of energy, right? And so we can be more relaxed during this period of time. Right? Enjoy some outdoor sports and then just go back in and snuggle under the blanket again. It's a good time for snuggling. A lot of good, good close together snuggle time. I think is appropriate. So don't label it as that I'm, like I'm depressed. I could stay in bed all day. I have no motivation. Just recognize, oh, okay. Yes, there isn't as much energy available for what I would normally be doing at this particular time. Okay, let's use let's just be here now. Let's just be with what is and not turn it into suffering. Right? And just, okay, this is okay. And you'll find that there'll be just enough energy that for what it is that you need. And excuse me one second. I still got a bit of a cold. I have to go and clear the pipes here for a second. I'll be Oh, okay. Sorry about that, folks. Yeah, Martin. I was thinking about it as I was cleaning the pipes. We've gotten so detached from nature that it seems like this is a problem, right? It's like there's something wrong with me. Right? It's just because we're so detached from nature. We've got this such a weird our point of reference now is completely within the mind, and as a result, we have no context for interpreting the natural cycles of life, and we do that. We cause ourselves just unbelievable amount of suffering because of that. Right? Don't expect yourself to be running at full speed all year round, all day long, right? Every day, through weeks, through months, everything, there are these natural cycles, right? Women know it better than men. Okay. So thanks, Martin. David and Elaine, hello, good to see you. Suzanne, is it true that what we don't like in others is the same thing we don't like in us? Yeah, kind of like what I was talking about before about the world being a mirror. Yes, the things we disown in ourselves, dislike is too much of the mind, right? I don't like this quality in me, right? It's this stuff is 99% of it is completely under the surface. You're not even aware of it. It's the parts of us that have been disowned, right? Being disowned, you're not aware of them, right? And yes, they're characterized as negative. They're characterized as they're not good. You know, you shouldn't be doing this or that. But their characterization came so long ago that you're not even aware of it. They're simply aspects of yourself, many aspects of yourself that are just not allowed any access to the light. You do not have access to them, right? And oftentimes these can be the best parts of you. This is the essential trauma, the existential trauma that has happened to absolutely everyone, right? Now, inevitably, because parts of you get disowned, don't mean they go away. Parts of you doesn't mean they go away. They're still there. And because they're still there, they're still active in some kind of form. And oftentimes they'll come out as criticism or judgment of others, right? Because if there's a part of me, right, that I don't have access to, right, that I'm cut off for some reason, if I see it in somebody else, I'm going to think they should be cut off from it too, right? And so I won't like that characteristic in them. And so that's where that phrase comes from. What I don't like in others is something I don't like in myself. But as you can see, if you just leave it there and don't really examine what's going, the whole mechanism behind it, it can end up be just another way to beat yourself up, right? And saying, oh, I shouldn't be critical of them. I don't like that about me. And it can also become very superficial. And it can be something about saying, maybe just have a preference and they are annoying, right? Oh, it's because I'm annoying, right? Don't approach any of this kind of stuff superficially, right? Please, right? Drink deep, go deep into these things so you really understand the mechanism by which projection takes place, right? So that we're not just using pop psychology or law of attraction or any of these things which are so remedial and end up doing more damage than they do good, right? Because there's no depth to them, because we're looking for the quick answer, right? Right? There's no quick answer to this, right? Turn inward and discover, okay, ask, is there something about that? Is there something they're doing that I wish I could do? Do they have things that I wish I could have? Right? And so I'm condemning them because they have that? There's only one way to find that out, and that's to discover yourself, what you really want, what you really care about, what really matters to you. It's the only way you can do it. Right? Then you'll be able to see through, to see whether or not the judgment is a projection, right? That is a projection of something you've denied to yourself. But the real thing isn't to just to find out, oh, it's because I don't like it in them. To find out what's the thing I've actually disowned and own it. So I now have access to the thing, so it doesn't project anymore. It doesn't have to, right? Because you fully owned it. Right? This is how we come back to ourselves, not just by just on a superficial level, going with a phrase like that, right? And this isn't criticism of you, Suzanne. I'm just trying to make the point that we don't dive deeply enough into these things for the real meat to be discovered, and therefore the real fruit to be experienced. Because the real fruit is what? The uncovering of who you really are, the incredible gifts and powers and abilities that are already that are available to you, but because of conditioning and identification, have been cut off from you, and they simply surface as projections on others, which is nothing more than to say, so I'm seeing something in the mirror. Let me turn to what the mirror is reflecting to find out what's happening here. How do I come to truly love myself totally? Well, there's only one way to do that, and that's to know yourself totally. Once you know yourself, you will love yourself. Because there's nothing about you that actually isn't lovable, but you've been taught that there was. Hence, parts of you have been disowned, regarded as not lovable, not good, not right, not moral, right? All of those are the angels in the basement. Yeah. Thank you, Suzanne. Hello, Nazrin. Good to see you. Milo. Hi, everyone. When you're not the body, is it then still important to care for the body or not? Well, if you want it to live, I would say yeah. Knowing you're not the body, knowing you're not your car, doesn't mean you don't put gas and oil in it, change the tires, and get it tuned up and stuff, right? I'm not my car, but I take care of it. Right? I'm not this body, but I take care of it. It would, according to whatever it is I need to do to take care of it. Right? Now, some can get really extreme about that. I'm not the body. Now, look, there are various kinds of yogic and ascetic practices that transcend all stuff of the body, the way it's fed, and the stuff that they make it do, the contortions and the like. One guy who has actually let himself be buried alive for 3 days, in a glass container where it got to be like 180 degrees inside this thing, and meditated, zero effect on him. Those things are possible, right? But they're a waste of time. Yes, you get to be, a famous yogi doing magical things, but it gets you no closer to who you actually are. Give your body what it needs and then forget about it. It's really that simple. Feed it well, right? Exercise it, make sure it rests, and then forget about it. It doesn't need much. Your body doesn't complain, right? It only complains when it's not getting what it needs. And usually it's not well fed. It's being fed crap food, right? It's not being exercised enough. But all it needs, the body knows when it's get what it needs. It doesn't need anymore. It's not insatiable, right? It's satisfied until it's hungry again. It's really very simple, right? So yes, you take care of it, but you are not it, right? I am these clothes. I'm not these clothes, but I take care of them. I wash them, right? No, check them out. They look good, right? But I'm not them, right? I am not this body, right? But I want it to last, right? I want it to be in good shape until I'm not going to use it anymore. Right? So yeah, take care of it. Okay? There was a long time ago when I used to think that it was a complete denial of the body. That's how you transcended it, because you weren't the body. In fact, the body isn't even really the body. The body is the mind. Everything experienced is the mind. It is a thought form, right? Therefore, I could just do everything with it with my thoughts, right? That's all I needed to deal with. So I never took care of it and never did anything like that. I wish I had known about the story of Buddha and the middle way at the time, and I would have saved myself a lot of grief, a lot of wasted energy, because it takes so little energy to take care of it. It takes an enormous amount of energy to transcend all the beliefs about it that you have to in order to get to that yogic state where it doesn't matter what you do with the body. Where would you rather spend the energy? I'd rather spend the energy in self-discovery, not trying to master some advanced yogic technique, and not trying to prove that I could manifest a perfect body while I was still eating, ho-hos and Pepsi. I now see it as a total waste of energy, and a complete misplacement of the true understanding that you are not the body, and the body does not exist as an actual fact, only as a thought. And now the concession is I simply take care of the body in line with whatever the best thinking is on what it means to take care of the body, which means exercise, rest, proper food. Simple as that. How's that, Milo? Hello, Linda. Disappearing into truth. Beautifully put in the email earlier today. Thank you, G. Oh, thank you, Linda. Yeah, beautiful. Thank you. Jay, Hariom G. Hariom J. Facebook user. Hello, everyone. I notice plastic surgery everywhere nowadays. It makes me feel uncomfortable in my own body. And I see that I also tend to think about changing things on my body via surgery. Can you say your opinion about that topic? Very much appreciated. Wow. Yes, it is a modern neurosis. It is neurotic. It is artificial. It is driven by the industry that wants you to feel bad about yourself so they can sell you everything, right? Everything is sold. The fact that you're going to be better. It's going to make your life better, especially in a fashion industry, cosmetics, cosmetic surgery, all of these things, as if there's something wrong with you, right? Notice the basic assumption is there's something wrong with you, and it's constantly parading in front of you images that you should look like, right? Who said you're supposed to look like that, right? I don't know how many tens of millions of cosmetic surgeries are performed every year, and it is a reflection of a very sick culture, a very traumatized culture, a very neurotic culture, one that cannot accept itself, one that is constantly trying to be something other than what it is. And yes, it will infect you because the message is being delivered to you constantly. We need to be vigilant. It makes me feel uncomfortable in my own body. That's what it's trying to do, right? I also tend to think about changing things on my body via surgery. That's what it's trying to do. That's exactly its intent. And it doesn't have your best interest in heart. It's simply trying to get your money. That's it. I encourage people to be bold. Take care of your body, right? Right? Watch what you eat. Right? It actually isn't hard to lose weight. Your body, you simply need to learn what your body needs and what it doesn't. You give it what it needs. And what it doesn't, you notice how emotionally you're attached to eating. That's the process. Yeah, I know it's easier said than done, but that's the whole all there is to the process, right? And then you start feeling comfortable in your own body, right? And you begin to become less susceptible to the whispers of marketing and all the people who have succumbed to marketing about it, and go, I'm not playing that game. I am not going to diminish myself like that. There's nothing wrong with me. I'm not broken. And I refuse to accept that I'm broken, right? And any thought that says I am, I completely reject. I reject it out of hand. And I reject people telling me that it's that way. And I will tell everyone there's nothing wrong with you. Nothing. Right? You need no repairing, right? Now, and those things that you truly do want to improve and change in your life, you don't need somebody telling you all this nasty shit about yourself in order for that to happen, right? It's just, I really would like this to be different. Now, notice that's coming from a place of power. Not, I have to be different in order to be better, in order to be lovable, in order to be desirable, in order to be successful, right? Very different. I am already that. I'm already lovable, desirable, successful. I am that. And I'd like to be more. I'm choosing to be more, right? It all comes down to accepting yourself as you are, right? Unconditionally. Not after you've checked all these little things off the list and it says, oh, I've got this, I got this, I got, okay, now I'm acceptable. Because you know that list is infinite. And it doesn't matter how many you check off. Every one you check off, 10 more will appear. Because this is what is driving the our sociopathic society, right? Which is horribly traumatized, right? And exploitive. And we all have to transcend it. We all have to go beyond it, so we can make something that is sane and takes care of us, that acknowledges people, that acknowledges who we are, that acknowledges your beauty and your value and your worthiness, right? Because you are, not because you've conformed to some artificial standard that somebody placed on you, not for your benefit, but for theirs. Hopefully that helps, Facebook user. Randa Speller. Hello, Randa. Thank you. You're welcome. Are you new? I don't recognize the name. There's Peter in Italy. Another Facebook user, this one in Nashville. Ursula, Madeira Island. Kamal. Hello, buddies from Pakistan. Hello, Kamal. Ariane, I wonder if there really is no thing to do or be, and no right or wrong. What's the point of anything? Maybe there's no point. Then what I'm thinking, just be and more and move on inspiration. Ariana or Ariane? This is something that is horribly misunderstood. And of course, when people hear non-dual teachers talking like that, they rightfully so say, what are you talking about? It's all meaningless then, right? I have to say Christian apologists criticize atheists for exactly the same reason. Well, then nothing has any meaning, does it? Which is a bit extreme, don't you think? There's no right or wrong. What's the point of anything? Well, what's the point of me doing satsang? Right? Is there this important point? The entire world's going to be saved. There's this big external, thing God's saying, this must be done. No, I do it because I love doing it. I love engaging with you all. I love moving the needle. I love showing you that you are lovable, that you're not broken. I love doing that, right? That's the purpose of it, to do it, right? So my reason to do it is to do it, right? I don't have to do it. There's nothing external telling me to do this. It's completely coming from within myself, right? So that is a self-fulfilling purpose, right? The purpose is in itself. The energy of purpose and the energy of expression are one. And they're me, right? They're just natural to me, right? So you can see that, of course, there's a purpose. There's a purpose for you sitting here. There's a purpose for you asking the question. What there isn't is this great overarching purpose to all things that we all must conform to. I must find my purpose. You are your purpose. Everything you do is your purpose, right? If you stop and get a tea somewhere, that's your purpose, right? If you're standing at line to buy a ticket, that's your purpose in that moment. And you could see, if you see it as that, then suddenly every moment is grand. Every moment is glorious. Every moment is fulfillment of your purpose. And what is your purpose? To be. Right? So when you hear somebody say something, there's nothing to do, right? But let me finish off on purpose here first. I'm thinking just be and move on inspiration. Well, yes, but notice the way you're saying it. Just be, move on inspiration. But isn't everything being moved by inspiration in everything you do? Right? Yeah. I mean, if we think of inspiration as this, oh, God's speaking to me, Beethoven's Ninth Symphony or something, then we go, where's the inspiration? But what was my inspiration today? I mean, I just sat down here, turned on the lights, and did it. Right? Your inspiration for being here, that cup of tea that you might want to get, right? You just are just being, but being includes is not just nothing, right? This is the big misunderstanding. Non-duality doesn't mean it's just being and no doing. It means that being is the ground out of which doing arises. And therefore, doing is always a manifestation of and an expression of the nature of being, right? The character of being. Being isn't a doing, right? You don't have to be to do. It isn't something you do, right? Right now, just do you have to try to be, or you just are? Now that's it. That's all there is to it, right? So in order to exist, there's nothing you need to do, right? Now just notice that. That's being. But does that mean you don't have any motivation? You don't do anything? Of course not. Without you there first, right? Doing couldn't happen. Being must of necessity precede doing. Doing arises out of it. Everything that's done gains its character and all of its aspects from the nature of being itself, right? And so there's no thing that has to be done, right? There's nothing you have to do, but doing happens. It's part of the happening. It's the nature of being itself to manifest itself as what we call doing, right? As I'm doing this, you're sitting there doing whatever you're doing. You may be watching me, you may be doing other things at the same time. I'm even on headphones and you're at the gym, right? And you're jogging on a treadmill, right? What has motivated all of those things? Just you. Your being has motivated them. You are that because you are, right? So notice there's this interplay. Non-duality is not this and not that. It is this and that, right? And even the this and the that are just categories of the mind. We draw a distinction to talk about them, but in fact, you can't separate them. They're one. Being and doing are one, right? Right? The nature of being is the doing, but doing cannot happen without being, right? You can't have a song unless music, which is the potential for songs, right? But yet music would be a non-entity were it not for the songs. You cannot separate them, okay? This is the true meaning of non-duality. So when I say there's nothing to do, right? If somebody says there's nothing to do, there's nowhere to go, right? For most, when you say it, you can ignore it. It's an abstraction and they don't know what they're talking about. Right? Some actually do know what they're talking about, right? And what that is that don't put yourself in the position that there's something I need to acquire in order to be myself, in order to be whole, in order to be full, in order to be happy, right? That you do not need, right? That's what it means. There's nothing for me to do because I am already everything that I'm seeking. I just believe I'm not, and therefore there's this trying to acquire something, right? That doing is a mistake, right? But just the doing of life, right, is the being of life. You can't separate it. You are life, right? And life is not just, isn't an abstraction. Look at the tree. What's the point of the tree? Is the tree doing tree? Or is the doing that is a tree life itself? And life is being as a tree. It's being as a human being. It's being as this microphone. And all the other plants and the like that are out there as the water. This is being, manifesting, which is doing. So it's not growing its leaves, right? There's no active will there. But if you look really closely, you'll see for you there isn't either. It is all happening very spontaneously. So you're not shutting anything off. You're not shutting anything down, right? Right? This is what it means to just be includes doing. So it's not, oh, I'm just being. No, you're always just being, right? When we're asking that question, were you doing and not being? No, that was being. There's being is just the pure potential for everything. And then there's being that is the everything that happens to be manifested in this moment. They are one. And we are one. And you are life. And the witness of life. It is the most wonderful, mysterious thing. Right? And you are that. Thank you, Ariana. Love my water bottles. Thank you. Cheers. David and Elaine, lovely introduction, G. Beautifully expressed. Thank you. There's Sue. Love you. Thank you for Satsang. Thank you. You're welcome. Basically, just live in the moment. Basically, recognize that you always are and always have been living in the moment. You don't have to do it. Love that. Just be. Oh, I'm just going to live in this moment. Okay. Try to get out of this moment. Everybody, try to get out of this moment. And anybody who manages to do that, I will personally take you out to dinner at the restaurant of your choice. In the moment of your choice. There's nothing but this moment. Again, it's the mind conceptually thing. Oh, live in the moment. What does that mean? Right? That's because we believe that somehow we're not. Right? And that only arises from the sense of, I don't like this moment. I want it to be different. If that's not there, then you realize that there's nothing but this moment. Right? And then the phrase, just live in the moment, means, oh, there isn't anything else. This is it. There's nowhere. There isn't anything else for me. I don't need to strive and to struggle. It is all happening quite naturally. And I am both the source of it and the beneficiary. I'm all. Thanks, Bernadette. Roberto, GP, lately I wake up around 4 a.m. and cannot go back to sleep. I also hear and feel like a kind of electricity and sound current in my head. Good. That happens to me a lot. Matter of fact, lately, probably over the last several months, I've been waking up anywhere from midnight to like 5 in the morning and not being able to get back to sleep. It's okay. Don't make a problem out of the electricity, right? You feel this kind of buzz and sound in your head. Really stay present with them. You've made huge transformations in your life, Roberto. Huge. And so if stuff starts to happen, right, different experiences and phenomena begin to arise, fine, it's part of the track. Just go with it. Say, oh, great. What are you here for? Let's go. Right? See where it takes you, right? It may immediately just dissipate away, but it actually may begin to transform into something. It's not a problem, my friend. Not a problem at all. Oh, beautiful. I love you, Roberto. Liza, hello, Liz. Steph. Namaste, everyone. Great topic. Yes, sacred spaces are so important, especially in these unstable times. It's so meaningful and crucial that we are a sacred space for ourselves and everyone around us. Make our home a sacred space as well, where it can be the source of love, healing, happiness, and well-being. I couldn't have said it better myself. I'm actually reading a book about sacred spaces. It was written a long time ago, back in the 30s, I think, 1930s. We're almost into the 2030s, so I should really specify that. Yeah, somewhere around there. By a French name I can't pronounce, Marcel Illiot or something like that. Anyway, talking about just this need for a safe space and a sacred space, right? We all need it. The meditation I did at the beginning is that inner space, but create that in your home, right? Even though I have very little left, right? I'm just this morning, I spent a couple hours just going through cables and everything, just trying to clear some of the clutter of going through everything I own so that I have a safe, uncluttered space. I don't have a bed anymore. I just have a mattress on the floor because I sold the bed. And so I still have the bed. I make the bed. I try to keep it neat. I put some things in there that I need to work on, but just trying to continue to maintain this, to create a space that I don't have to think about anything other than just myself, not the concept of myself. I don't want to think about that at all, ever. I'm talking about the direct experience of myself as I guided you in the beginning, just without a reference point, without a role you happen to be playing. Right? I also highly recommend to people that you create a personal altar. Right? And on those things are they're objects that mean something to you. It could be a picture of someone that means something to you, or maybe a picture of your guru, right? It could be a rock you picked up that for some reason, or somebody close to you gave to you. I mean, I have a picture from my granddaughter with a bunch of different colors on it on the refrigerator, because these sacred personal objects, right? They're sacred. They mean so. They don't have to mean anything to anyone else, right? You can have a candle there, if you so desire, but to make ritual space, to make space that is truly sacred, it kind of like makes a bridge, right? Like Jacob's ladder, right? Jacob sleeping on the ground and had the dream of the ladder going in heaven, and the angels were descending and ascending on this ladder. And he made then a holy place, called it Peniel, or was it Bethel? I can't remember now. So make that sacred space, which is a place that you're reminded of your oneness with the infinite, where you can disappear into it. These things can be so deeply profound. They bring so much to the home. And I think the bedroom should be a sacred place, especially if you're a couple. It should be a sacred space. No TVs, no pictures of family, anything like that. Only stuff that means things to you, because it's a private, a personal sacred, sensual place. And it should have that atmosphere. It should have that sacredity about it, right? So I could, yeah. So anyway, thank you for that, Steph. Because it has such a profound effect. And if you have children, it teaches them sacredness. And if on the altar are some things from them, they feel they're sacred, part of it, and they can make their own, right? A shaman I know has his altar is a bag of stuff. I don't even know what's inside of it. Only he knows what's inside of it, but it's this huge. It weighs a ton. It's this heavy. That's his altar. He brings it with him. It's not even a table with stuff on it. It's just kind of got it all in there. And it's, it's about this big, and it's hefty. It's hefty. So it goes with him wherever he goes, whenever he travels and stuff, and he uses it in his ceremonies and the like. So don't let our modern world, which poo-poos all that stuff, and as being don't our ritual space, our sacred spaces are absolutely important. And one of the huge reasons the world is suffering now is because we've gotten rid of them all. It's all office buildings. Everything is perfunctory and utilitarian. Nothing exists for the sheer sake of it. If you go into a cathedral, right? Go into like St. Peter's Basilica, a cathedral in New York City, and the experience is just otherworldly. Going from the traffic and the noise and the smell of New York, and all of a sudden you are transformed. You are in a different world. Right? That was the point of them. They weren't just about splendor. They were to connect you back to your divinity, back to where you really came from. Right? Make those spaces for yourself. And let everything about you, let you be that sacred space. Yeah. Thanks again, Steph. Jay, what exactly happened, G, after your awakening? Decades of utter chaos. Because I was really unprepared. I lived in a culture that was unprepared. I was a dysfunctional human being, and I just kind of assumed all my problems would be solved from that point on. And then I would have a series of them, and it would every single time it would get different. And this is it. I think I'd arrived, and then I didn't, and then I realized there was no arrival. It was eventually in Zen Buddhism that I lost all the need for there to be such a thing, even as an awakening. It lost all of its meaning, and it became this moment and the ordinary human being, and the awakening and GP were one. There wasn't some extraordinary special event. The awakening really was the truly, I could say, was the total embracing of the human being as the divine, that there was no difference. There wasn't two. There wasn't any kind of state. Now, what it took for me to get from that time 50 years ago was just, life transforming in an instant. Up to then was an enormous process of growth, right? That process of growth is what I'm trying to do for others in advance. Because I was not prepared for it. It was not the culture wasn't prepared for it. I had no background. I had no idea what the hell had happened. And I was completely on my own trying to put it together. And I could have spared myself decades of suffering over it. Okay? I didn't have the experience of a Ramana Maharshi where it was complete and total, beginning to end. All the walls came down. I didn't have that experience. All of my vasanas and conditioning came flying to the surface in just a different form. Matter of fact, ones that I had so deeply suppressed through my own emotional detachment, my disassociation, my use of drugs, all of those have kept at bay. All of that, all of it now was released, right? The demons were flying. So thanks for that question, Jay. Penny, well said, Steffi. Thanks so much. And Steph says, Penny, Gloria, or Georgia B. Yeah. Hi, Georgia in London. Good to see you. There's Barbara in Sweden. Jay, do you feel like there should be a little more preference given to religious practices? What I mean is like waking up in the morning and doing a little prayer meditation. Do I think there should be? No. Do I think as humanity we could use it? Yeah. You'll often hear me refer to the meditation and spiritual inquiry, but with the religious sentiment, the feeling of devotion, right? Because non-dual inquiry can become very clinical. It can become very heady. And many of you have even told me you've had experiences with teachers who are non-dual teachers, very heady, very regimented, right? And completely lacking in the heart of it. Right? And so when I speak about religious practice, it's a devotional practice. I meditate first thing every morning. I just do. I wake up, that's what I do. It's not like I got to do it, right? It's just I do. First thing in the morning, I just want to go inside, right? The day's going to have plenty to do, and I'll stop during the day, and I'll just like, and I'll turn around and I'll look out my back window or go sit out there for a second if it's not wet. Right? Or go up on the roof, just watch the ferry go by for a minute. I think there's nothing that says, okay, I've got to do this little prayer or meditation in the morning in order to become awakened. That's not true. Right? You don't. Right? But like I was talking about sacred space, an altar, sacred practices, things that ground us back into ourselves, that anchor us back, right? I find that regular practices like that, or maybe yoga or something like that, when done with that spirit, right, and that intent, wow, very powerful. So it becomes a matter of, do you need to do it? Right? Are you feeling something missing? Well, try it. Right? Give yourself a 5-minute practice, a mantra or something. You recognize that it's not essential, but hey, none of this is essential. What's essential? Self-inquiry. That's the only thing that's absolutely essential. Everything else is extra, but it's all there for you to use. It's all there for your benefit. And all of it can assist the self-inquiry. But this inquiry of simply looking at yourself without the lens of a role or character, without the lens of the person, without identification as the person, but to look at oneself. And the inquiry is simply, oh, that's a thought, right? But the thought can't exist by itself. The thought is appearing to me. It's coming and going, I'm not. Who am I? That's the inquiry. It's that simple. I'm having these feelings, sensations in my body. All right, but the sensations are coming and going. I'm not, and they couldn't be here unless I was here first. I'm obviously something more than just these sensations or these thoughts or these emotions. Who am I? Who is this I? And then the mind produces, oh, you're this person and you were born here. And well, no, those are all just thoughts. Even those thoughts, even the thought I was born here or there, and I'm going to die. And I've had past lives and karma, and all the religious things, and my altar, and all of these are just thoughts. Okay. None of these thoughts could exist by themselves. They're all appearing to me. So who am I? That's the inquiry. That alone is absolutely essential. That cannot be gone without. Every other practice eventually leads to that. Every yogic practice, every religious practice, every meditational practice, all of them eventually have to come to the self-inquiry. And the Upanishads, the Gitas, all point to the fact that without none of the rest will get you there without self-inquiry. Awakening is not possible without self-inquiry. And this is the essence of the self-inquiry. That alone is the only necessity. Everything else is yours to use. Take, use, drop. There's no rules. There's no requirements. Just use it for as long as it's useful, and then not. But self-inquiry, there's no compromise on that one. Yes, GP, ever-present love. Thank you. You're welcome, Tatiana. You're welcome, Jay. What Hindus do is say a prayer to Mother Earth before the first step is taken, and light a lamp and read scriptures or chant mantras in the evening. I feel like it's necessary to center ourselves on the most important things in life. Then do it. I totally agree with that. You know, Nisargadatta, a fully enlightened master, twice a day hosted bhajans at his house. He'd get together and people, why do you do that? He had a picture of his guru, right? And his guru's guru on the wall. He lit incense. He participated in the rituals, right? You know, singing the bhajans, which are so much fun. They're so damn fun, right? So yes, when you get up in the morning, say that prayer to Mother Earth before you take that first step. What that does is turn that first step into a sacred moment. Boom, it is no longer a perfunctory moment. It is no longer just a moment on the earth. It isn't just more like foot and earth. It is the presence of God. You have sanctified this. You have turned this into a temple. You did it, right? The same thing in the evening. Read scriptures, chant mantras. It'd be a great thing for your family to do together. You have such a kick listening to your boys chanting mantras or singing bhajans. You know, learn to play the harmonium. Lead them yourself. You're Indian. Come natural to you. Yes, it is absolutely essential to center yourselves in the most important thing in life. Yes, yes, yes. I couldn't agree more. So the sacred spaces are all about this. Steph had mentioned earlier. Yeah, make it in your house, not just a place, but the moments, the time of day, the things that you do. Remember, it's not what is done. It is the energy behind it. You make it sacred. Okay? And so you become the Brahman, giving the ritual. Right? By all means, Jay, do it. Oh, do it. I love it. And only what is, love is. Love is all that is. Everything else is an appearance. And what exists, right? That is not subject to opinion. It does not come and go. It is not this or that. It is what it is only. It can appear in its positive aspect or its negative aspect. When it appears in its negation, like those of you who remember film, right, in cameras, that the exposure on the film was a negative. It was the picture, only all the colors or all the shades of light were reversed, and then it was printed, right? It had to be put onto projected onto a piece of photosensitive paper, which would then turn it back into the picture that was being seen. You can think of hate as the negation of love. It is not a thing. It is not an entity in itself. Love is an entity, but it can manifest in its negated form. All of this, all of what we call our shadow side, our dark side, right, is the real you, right, coming out in negation. Lack is a negation of infinite abundance. It's not a reality. There's no such thing as lack or scarcity. But if you are experiencing lack in your life, what you are experiencing is the negation. It is a denial of abundance trying to manifest itself as the lack of the thing, which means the thing is actually here in its nascent form, in its embryonic form, but it can't get out in its fullness, so it comes out in its negation. Okay? Love is what is. It manifests itself always. Even the hate we see in the world, the incredible stupidity and brutality and authoritarianism, is love negated. Be the love, and it will burn up the negation in the bright light. Ariana, I realize one of my deep beliefs is that God can't take care of things itself. Otherwise, the world wouldn't be the state it is in now. And hence, it's hard to trust in it. How to dispel this? Thank you for that, Ariane. Yes, it is a deeply held belief. And the basis of this belief is God as the ultimate other created this world, left it on its own, and now is judging it, hating it, condemning it, punishing it, throwing stuff at it, because he is displeased with his own creation. This is the belief in the Western world. Right? And of course, the Western world has produced the most violent, aggressive, militaristic, greedy, and materialistic cultures the world has ever seen. They all arise from this idea. This idea gives birth to that very thing that we ask, why did God create this? The true God, the mother love, that which is immanent in its creation and feels all suffering as herself, did not create this. It is the negation. God is love. God simply is a word that represents that which absolutely is, self-aware being. Not a creator making something, right? But the essence of all being itself. And you are one with that. How to dispel this? Allow yourself to become one with that God that is immanent in all things. Drop the idea. It'll keep coming because it's inherent in the culture and you were raised with it. That God is something separate from creation, that there's you and then there's God. God is the infinite presence. And if it's infinite presence, it means it's your presence. Look inside. Maybe you're here at the beginning for that exercise, just into that space where there was no definition other, right? You weren't anybody in particular. You weren't your roles. You weren't your brother or sister, husband, wife, any of that, right? You weren't mother. You weren't sister. was just you. That being, that sense of just being, that is God. That is the true God. And that, the nature of that is, notice there's no antagonism there. There's no anger. There's no position being taken. There's no lack of trust. It's your natural state. Right? It's impossible. It's not only hard for the mind. Excuse me. One second. It's not only hard for the mind, the sense of personal self, identified with or as somebody, to trust. It's impossible. It can't, because there's always this other that it's going to be suspicious of. And so it's inherent in the entire culture of the West, which is sick, exactly as you have pointed out, and unfortunately is being emulated by other cultures around the world. So the dispelling is, who is God, really? God is another word for consciousness, for self-aware being, for being itself, for love itself. So if God is love, then I can purge from myself anything unlike love and reject it with the authority of deity. Which means the only reason the world is in the state that we're in is because we have accepted God as an entity that loves and hates, punishes and rewards, mostly punishes, right? And because of the power of consciousness, we're creating a world in which that is being reflected. And you see that it isn't the truth. It is only the dominant belief. How do you dispel the dominant belief? Well, you rid yourself of it. When it's no longer dominant in you, it can't help but reach out to others. You will become that beacon. You will be God incarnate. You will be love seen and known and go, oh, that's what life is actually about. That is where I want to go. Because you will be the very manifestation of God. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called the children of God. They will be the manifestors. And blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth. We shall inherit the earth. It wasn't a hollow promise. So, thank you, Ariana. I hope I'm saying that right. I don't know if it's Ariane or Ariane. The Beatles got it right. All you need is love. David and Elaine, they sure did. They got so much right. Daryl and Marilyn, hello to you. Patricia in Los Angeles, Make a Pathway. Louise, thank you. You're welcome. Melissa, hello. Wonderful stuff. Thank you. Thank you. Jill Kelly, is there a replay for the Saturday portion of the women's class? Unfortunately not. That's Steph, who put the class on, made it very clear to me. This is part of creating sacred space that she wanted to create. Number one, it was for women only. So even though I had taught the women's class 2 days before, I was not in that class and would not make a recording of it. It wasn't for that. Right? It had to be experienced for real. I'm asking her to do these some more because I think people got a lot out of them. There's many who'd like to be there. So I'm really hoping that Steph will kind of expand this, and so we can include other women on it and give women a sacred women's space. And my intention is to create sacred male space for men. So we both need it. And traditionally, that was always the case. There was always a place that for the men, just men, and for the women, just women, because that was acknowledged too as part of the sacredness. And in that sacredness, then the sacredness of the dance of relationship would take place in more and be more fully. Yes, in more full expression. So thank you, Jill. Ciara, hello, Ciara. Hi, GP. I find EFT so powerful. Sometimes I'm feeling I'm not saying what needs to be said. The emotion doesn't lower. Do you have a recommended phrase to open things up? Many thanks. Yeah. Well, I would say it would be, I totally accept what I'm feeling, right? So then go, oh, look, I'm tapping and the emotions aren't going to get any lower. Notice there's an expectation that you want them to, which means you now are no longer in a state of allowing everything to be as it is and simply communicating safety with touch. You've got an expectation you're imposing. You're trying to get something out of the system, right? It's very subtle stuff. And frankly, most EFT practitioners miss this because it is so effective at bringing the stress levels in the nervous system down that we think that's what it's supposed to do. No, the ultimate goal is transformation, not symptom relief. And so when they're not coming down, oh, I must not be saying the right thing. No, just say, oh, look, they're not coming down. I totally accept the fact that they're not coming down. You know what, guys? If you want to come down, come down. If you don't, don't. It's up to you. I'm here to help. I'm not here to tell you what to do. Can you feel the difference? Right? And you'll notice if you watch any of my videos, and I got a whole bunch more I'm going to be doing coming up over the next couple of months. I never do that, right? I'm never looking for a change in the symptom, right? I ask, right? And oftentimes I don't. Okay, good. So what are you feeling? That's all I care about. What are you feeling? And it's okay to feel it, right? So don't put any expectations on it. And then what happens? That's all you have to do. Yeah, I'll leave it at that. Melissa K. Word on incorporating bodhicitta for integration of disowned parts of us. Okay, I'm forgetting what bodhicitta means. Shoot. Bodhi, of course, means awakening. Chitta. Bodhicitta, probably chit, probably related to chit, right, as in consciousness. So anybody can anybody remind me here really quickly what chit is, what bodhicitta means? Melissa, you made the last comment there, so that I can compassion, right? Good, thank you. I sometimes forget. Okay, awakened compassion, right? Well, first off, the integration of the disowned parts of ourselves, or the shadow parts, if you'd like to use that term, can't happen without compassion, can they? You can't force it, right? Integrate, goddammit. I need you. Makes a very inviting environment. Oh, yeah, I want to just run right into those arms, right? So what you're bringing is an awakened compassion, an awakened allowing. Another name for it is unconditional love, self-acceptance. I feel the way I am feeling in this moment. I recognize I was conditioned, that these disowned parts, I didn't want to disown them, right? They get disowned because they had to be disowned, because whenever they came up, I was in trouble. I got hurt. I got smacked. Damn straight they can't come up. Right? And so all the mechanisms got put into place that would make sure they didn't come up, right? Now, it's the perfect strategy when you're that age and they can't come up. But the strategy is totally dysfunctional 10, 20, 30 years later when you need that aspect of yourself, and all the mechanisms that assume that it's dangerous for it to be released are still in place. It takes compassion to show the nervous system that it doesn't need those layers of protection anymore. That's why it's compassion. That's why it's an enlightened compassion, an awakened compassion. You can't just get rid of them. You can't visualize them away. You can't hypnotherapize them away or NLP them away. You can't. Until the system itself sees it's safe enough to let go of these defensive behaviors, it will hold on to them until it dies. Because that's its job. So what you're doing is you're simply showing your energy system that it's safe to let go. You do that by not demanding it, by agreeing with it that yes, it's dangerous. At least it was dangerous. Absolutely it was. Is it now? But just introducing, is it still? If it is, well, you got to stay that way. And I agree. I'm not going to fight you. But first, you become very agreeable. You become its friend, right? You're not there trying to force it into anything. Because you try to force it, what does it do? It defends itself. So it's just this open-hearted feeling of total self-acceptance, total unconditional love. This allowing what happens to be there with this enlightened awareness that is recognizing that it actually is safe now, but the message has to get all the way in, right? It can't be asserted. It can't be forced, right? Let's get, okay, let's see. Let's just see. And of course, that enlightened awareness even recognizes that there may be a danger that I'm not aware of, right? Okay, it knows. I'm just going to let it do it. And I'm going to trust in the whole process. That's how it comes down. That's why this is such an integral part of it. And I'll try to never forget what that word means again. Thanks, Eliza. Steph says, Jill, no replay, but I'll probably do an extra class for the goddesses who couldn't be there Saturday. I'll let you know. Very good. Thank you, Steph. Our resident goddess guru. Beautiful purpose, says Sharon. Thank you, Sharon. Melissa, disowned parts only in the subconscious? No, they're not in it. They are it. Does healing take place by feeling and releasing emotions, energy that arise during meditation, or access in different ways? I think I covered it, but yeah, you're right about that. What we call the unconscious is this collection of the disowned parts. It's not a thing. It's not an entity. It's not a place. It's not a container, right? They're simply programmed reactive patterns. They're not even entities that live somewhere, right? What they are is the nervous system is simply prepared that at any given moment, if a particular event happens, it has a pre-programmed response to it. So it's not an unconscious mind. There's no mind there. It's not thinking. There's no entity. There's no like green room, a waiting room off stage where things are hanging out, right? Right. The disowned parts are your natural abilities, but those natural abilities don't get the call to action because the nervous system has put into place different responses to the environment. So in the environment, something happens where the natural creative energy should respond. It doesn't. Something else does instead, the artificial, right? So notice, it's not a repository for things, right? It is a mechanism that is simply has predefined reactions to the environment based on the assumption that the environment wasn't safe, and therefore it had to present to the environment what it needed to. It's a pretty in-depth explanation of the entire process, but notice it's not thought, it's not thinking, it's not a mind, right? And what you are is not a bunch of things hanging out somewhere that you have to get access to. They're all simply your nature, which isn't being called on, right? and yet still exists. And the desire, of course, you have is to have complete access to your own nature. Thank you, Melissa. I think I covered it. So yes, you are, in that sense, you are dismantling the programmed responses by showing it doesn't need to be there anymore, and therefore let's go of the triggers. It basically disarms the buttons, and now the real you begins to respond to the environment. That's how it works. My dream seed, IGP, love your work. Do you think hypnosis or self-improvement tapes is a good idea if you want more results and still be aware of the self? Or do the two not help each other? I never say yes or no to anything. I think sometimes there may be times where we might need, something. I know, people who use like subliminal tapes. They use self-hypnosis. They will use brain entrainment and things like that. I never say no to any of it. I let people decide for themselves. I always say this. I think in everybody's growth, there comes a time where there's less and less and less of that, and more focus on self-inquiry. But it's not up to me to say when that's going to happen or dictate terms at any of any kind, right? You have to do it for yourself. I know there are some things where we need help. If somebody has a severe addiction or something, get help, right? Get help. Help is available, right? And do what you need to see yourself through this, right? There's nothing wrong with that. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. What I would say is, for a lot of people, okay, I'm going to do this so I can manifest more stuff. Then I would start saying, well, okay, what is it that you're really craving, this thing you think is going to do it? Now, there are times when self-inquiry is a better tool for the job, right? But again, I can't give blanket answers for that. I'd have to know somebody, either within a private setting or in a group class. I'd have to know enough to be able to guide you individually. But the rule of thumb is simply make sure that your deepest desire is for truth's sake. You won't go wrong that way. So thank you, Dream Seed. Jay, the minute somebody gets out of this moment, and you got to stop doing what you're doing, gee, my man, and do some more investigation. Yep, I sure do. Somebody manages to get out of this moment. Okay. I need some revamping here. My whole theory is off. And hey, there's Jonas. Hello, Bo. Love starting and finishing my days in sacred inner space. I find listening to Muji's invitations very, very helpful. Beautiful. Yeah. Yes. As do I. You should notice the meditation I did at the beginning, the sacred inner space, is very similar to that, because that's exactly how he does it. There's Sonia. Hi, GP. Had another shame experience. One of my aunties, very smart, highly educated. She tends to talk about family members and what she thinks is wrong with them. I panicked because we had a disagreement. In fear, she will make certain judgments of me and the rest of the family. She probably does. Everyone respects what she says, except you. Good. The thing of I care what other thinks got to me again, feeling judged and possible rejection. I feel embarrassed that others will think bad of me. Yes. This is an old habit. I just notice, Sonia, that it's a reaction that's taking place. That's the important thing. It's not a personal failure. It's not a problem. You were programmed to react that way because you actually did get blamed and ridiculed and diminished and demeaned. So of course the system's going to recoil when it sees the potential for it happening again. And I assume that this auntie of yours was one that's been doing it your whole life, for as long as you've been around, right? So now, just Go right. Okay. Right. I reacted. The panic is there. The whole system is reacting. It's gearing up to be shamed again. I got it. And now, with total compassion, just go, I totally get it. I totally. And now you can even tap. I totally get it. Yeah, no wonder. No wonder it feels this way. God, boy, I really did get put through the ringer. We really did get mauled over, didn't we? Right? Just totally accepting. Yes, this did happen. Beautiful. I totally accept this happened to me. I suspect you're even feeling a little bit of relief right this moment. Sorry, I've got to speed it up here. Heart of enlightened mind, enlightened compassion. Thank you, Henrik. Melissa, everybody chimed in. Chit, I think means consciousness or clarity. Satchitananda, consciousness, bliss. Yes. Deep thanks. Sacred space of satsang. Thanks to all of you. Thank you, Melissa. You're very welcome. Jay. Satchitananda kata. And the kata part is a Kerala word meaning brick. And that's very true. This truth is thick as heck. It's everywhere, invading effortless space, no gaps. Yes, deepest desire is for truth, just for the serenity of knowing it. Yes, exactly so. That is our deepest motivation. If that is kept as the motivation, it'll take care of everything else. If there are temporary techniques or things that are needed for a moment, it'll bring them up, use them, let them go. Right? Nothing will be held on to. Nothing is an end in and of itself. Beautiful. And on that note, my dear ones, thank you. Thank you for being here with me once again. Thank you for devoting your Sunday afternoon, evening. Some of you actually may be in Australia, so morning or middle of the night to satsang. I deeply appreciate it. And until next time, all, namaste.